The truth about men who live alone without a girlfriend. Have you ever wondered what it's really like for men who live alone without a girlfriend? The typical narrative we hear is often filled with assumptions, loneliness, emptiness, or a sense of something missing. Society tends to view these men through a narrow lens, one that paints a picture of a life incomplete or less fulfilling. But what if I told you there's much more to the story than what meets the eye? What if living alone, without the constant presence of a romantic partner, is actually a path to growth, strength, and clarity? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the lives of men who choose to live alone, without a girlfriend. It's time to challenge the stereotypes and uncover the truths behind what's often misunderstood. From the outside, it may seem like something's missing, but in reality, these men are on a journey of self-discovery, independence, and emotional freedom that many people never truly get to experience. Living alone, far from being a sad, lonely existence, can be a powerful and enriching chapter of a person's life. It offers the space to reflect, to build confidence, to pursue passions without compromise, and to learn what it means to truly be content with oneself. There's no rush to fill the void with someone else's presence. Instead, it's about filling it with purpose, growth, and self-love. In the following video, we're going to explore what life is really like for men who live alone without a girlfriend. We'll talk about the freedom they have, the pressures they face, and the profound lessons they learn along the way. This isn't about glorifying loneliness, but about recognizing the strength that can come from solitude. So sit back and open your mind as we challenge the usual narratives and discover the truth about living alone without a romantic partner. You might just see it in a whole new light. Chapter 1. Society's Perception versus Reality. Let's start with something that's unavoidable when talking about men who live alone. Society's perception. You know the story, right? People often look at men who are single, who don't have a girlfriend, and immediately assume something is wrong. Maybe they're lonely, unlovable, or perhaps even incapable of maintaining a relationship. It's a harsh stereotype, but it's one that many men face every day. And let's be honest, these assumptions aren't just frustrating, they can be downright damaging. But here's the thing. Just because society thinks they're missing something doesn't mean they are. In fact, for a lot of men, living alone is a choice, not a lack. It's a choice to focus on personal growth, to build their lives on their terms, and to enjoy the freedom that comes with it. Society, however, loves to paint a different picture, one where being single equals being incomplete. That couldn't be further from the truth. So let's talk about how these perceptions impact men. Imagine this. You're at a party, you're chatting with friends, and someone asks you if you're dating anyone. If you say no, you get the raised eyebrows or the sympathetic, "Oh, you'll find someone soon" comment. It's almost as if people think being single is some kind of unfortunate accident. This kind of societal pressure can create unnecessary stress, especially for men who are perfectly content with their lives as they are. They don't need a girlfriend to validate their worth or define their happiness. The reality, though, is often much different. When you step away from society's judgment, you see that living alone offers a world of possibilities that many people never even consider. For some men, it's the first time they're allowed to really focus on themselves without the distraction of romantic expectations. It's about freedom, not isolation. They can follow their own schedule, make decisions based on their desires, and explore who they really are without worrying about meeting someone else's needs. Yes, there are moments of loneliness, sure. But loneliness isn't always bad. It's an opportunity to reflect, to grow, and to rediscover what makes life meaningful beyond the constraints of a relationship. Men living alone are learning to live fully in their own skin, and that's something society often overlooks. So, the next time you hear someone assume that living alone means something's wrong, remember, it's actually a space for incredible personal growth and freedom. Chapter 2. Independence and self-discovery. Now let's talk about something that truly sets men who live alone apart: independence. And I'm not just talking about the ability to make a cup of coffee or order takeout. I'm talking about true emotional independence, the kind that comes from living on your own terms, without constantly relying on someone else for validation, attention, or happiness. Think about it. When you're living alone, you're in complete control of your life. You can choose how to spend your time, what hobbies to pursue, and how to structure your day. There's no one else's needs to consider, no compromises to make. Every decision, big or small, is entirely yours. This autonomy can be incredibly empowering. But here's the beauty of it. With that independence comes a unique opportunity for self-discovery. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to lose sight of who you are outside of the roles you play. Whether it's as a boyfriend, friend, or son, living alone gives men the space to reconnect with themselves in a way that's hard to do when you're always sharing your life with someone else. It's a chance to explore your own interests, your dreams, and your goals without the pressure to meet someone else's expectations. For many men, living alone is a time for deep introspection. It's a chance to look inward, to confront fears, insecurities, and desires that might have been buried for years. Maybe it's picking up an old hobby, pursuing a career goal they had always put on the back burner, or even simply taking time to relax and recharge. In solitude, they're discovering who they truly are, not who they think they should be for someone else. Living alone doesn't just mean being physically alone, it also means emotional freedom. You get to build your own emotional landscape. If you want to stay in and have a night of self-care, you do it. If you want to take off on a spontaneous trip, it's your choice. You can focus entirely on your mental, emotional, and physical health without the distraction of a relationship. And over time, this builds a strong sense of self. Men who live alone learn to value their own company, to be content without the constant need for external validation. They start to realize that they don't need someone else to complete them. They are enough, just as they are. Self-discovery is a powerful thing. It's the process of learning about your values, your passions, your weaknesses, and your strengths. And it's in this space of living alone that many men find their true purpose. Whether it's through personal growth, creative expression, or finding peace in solitude, they come to understand themselves in a way that those in relationships might never fully experience. So, as we continue this journey together, keep this in mind. Living alone isn't a sign of failure or loneliness. It's an opportunity to explore independence, to dive into self-discovery, and to grow into the person you're truly meant to be. And for many men, this journey is one of the most powerful experiences of their lives. Chapter 3. The Pressure of Romance. Let's take a moment to think about something a lot of men who live alone experience: the constant pressure of romance. It's almost like there's a script society expects them to follow. There's this unspoken belief that everyone, especially men, should always be in a relationship, that they need to be with someone in order to be happy, successful, or even worthy. And let's face it, this pressure can be intense. Think about all the external influences that push men toward romantic relationships. Social media constantly showcases perfect couples, friends, and family. Ask why you're still single, and everywhere you look, it seems like everyone else has someone. This creates a kind of rush to find love narrative, like there's a clock ticking, and if you're not paired up by a certain age, then something is wrong. But for many men who live alone, this pressure can be overwhelming. The truth is, not all men want to live life on a perpetual romantic carousel. In fact, some men actively choose to be single because they want to focus on themselves, build their own lives, and understand their personal goals before they commit to someone else. There's no rush to find the perfect partner when they're still figuring out what makes them truly happy and fulfilled. But even with that self-awareness, the pressure doesn't go away. You still get those well-meaning but sometimes intrusive questions from family or friends about when you're going to settle down. They mean no harm, but the constant reminders can start to wear on you. It's as if society expects you to feel like there's something wrong with living alone and not having a girlfriend. The underlying message is that without a partner, you're incomplete, or somehow missing out on life's true joys. So what do you do when you feel the weight of these expectations? For many men, living alone allows them to finally step back and reassess what they actually want out of a relationship, without the pressure to rush into one. Instead of letting the idea of romance consume them, they can focus on what makes a meaningful relationship when the time is right. It's not about rushing or settling, but about being intentional when it comes to love. At the same time, many men who live alone realize that romance doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all of life. There's more to fulfillment than having a girlfriend or partner. They start to understand that happiness comes from within, from passions, purpose, and self-love. They don't need a relationship to complete them. They're already complete as individuals. So yes, society might put pressure on men to find a girlfriend, but that doesn't mean they need to give in to it. Instead, living alone offers a unique opportunity to rethink what romance really means and how it fits into a life that's already rich with meaning and purpose. Chapter 4: Building Strong Friendships. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention when we discuss men who live alone: friendships. A lot of people assume that living alone means being isolated or lonely, but in reality, many men who choose solitude develop some of the most fulfilling and deep friendships of their lives. When you live alone, you're not bound by the demands of a romantic partner. You're free to invest more time in the friendships that truly matter to you. Instead of focusing on one-on-one romantic dynamics, you have the freedom to build strong, meaningful relationships with the people around you, particularly other men. These friendships become lifelines, offering emotional support, shared experiences, and a sense of belonging. Men who live alone often value their friendships in a way that people in relationships sometimes overlook. It's not about just hanging out when you have the time. It's about building a network of friends who are there for you, no matter what. These friendships provide a sense of emotional security and camaraderie that is just as important, if not more so, than romantic relationships. In fact, the depth of connection that men experience in these friendships can be surprising. Without the pressures of romance or the need to constantly juggle a relationship, they're able to open up in ways they might not have before. These friendships often become spaces where men can talk about their struggles, share their victories, and even express vulnerability. In many ways, these connections are just as intimate as a romantic partnership, providing emotional richness and support that living alone makes room for. Living alone also allows men to explore a wide range of social activities without the need to fit in with someone else's schedule or preferences. Maybe it's joining a sports league, taking a class, or just hanging out with old friends who have similar interests. The freedom to pursue different social avenues without compromising for a partner's preferences means that men can engage with their social circles in ways that truly fulfill them. There's a special kind of bond that forms when men live alone and focus on their friendships. It's less about meeting societal expectations and more about creating a supportive network of people who understand you. These friendships often become the foundation for a rich and satisfying social life, offering joy, stability, and the kind of deep connection that's essential to emotional well-being. And let's not forget that these friendships play a huge role in combating loneliness. While romantic relationships often get the spotlight, strong friendships provide the real emotional support that many men rely on to stay mentally and emotionally healthy. So, when you hear someone talk about how lonely men who live alone are, remember that these men often have powerful, fulfilling friendships that keep them connected and grounded. Living alone doesn't mean being isolated. It means having the freedom to nurture the kinds of relationships that matter most. Friendships provide a sense of purpose, connection, and love that might otherwise be overlooked. And for many men, these friendships are just as important, if not more, than a romantic relationship. They're the foundation of a rich and balanced life. Chapter 5: Managing Loneliness. Now let's talk about something that many people associate with living alone: loneliness. The first thing that often comes to mind when thinking about a man who lives alone without a girlfriend is that he must be lonely. After all, isn't that the natural conclusion? Well, let's take a step back and really think about it. Because loneliness is not always what it seems. Yes, there are moments of loneliness. Let's be real here. No matter how much you love living on your own, there are still times when you long for company. Whether it's a conversation with a partner, a shared experience, or just the presence of someone else in the room. That's natural. We're social creatures after all. But here's where it gets interesting. Loneliness doesn't have to be a negative thing. In fact, when managed well, it can become a powerful tool for personal growth and reflection. Men who live alone often learn to embrace loneliness as a space for introspection. It's in these moments of solitude that you start to understand your own thoughts and emotions on a deeper level. There's no one else around to distract you. No one else's needs to consider. So it's just you, your thoughts, and the room to explore them. You can start to ask the big questions about your life. Who am I? What do I want out of life? What makes me truly happy? And here's the beautiful part. In this solitude, you're not pressured to have answers. You're simply allowed the space to reflect. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, yeah, that's all fine and good, but what about when loneliness feels overwhelming? And I get it. It's one thing to have a few reflective moments, but it's another to feel consumed by loneliness, where it starts to affect your mental health. This is where the power of self-awareness comes in. Men who live alone often become experts at recognizing when loneliness is veering into unhealthy territory. They start to pay attention to their emotional states, and instead of letting loneliness spiral, they take action. What does that action look like? It might mean picking up the phone and reaching out to a friend, engaging in a hobby, or spending time outside. It might even mean taking a day to recharge and reset. The key is recognizing that loneliness is not a permanent state. It's a temporary feeling that can be managed in healthy, constructive ways. Interestingly, many men who live alone also report that they become more comfortable being alone without feeling lonely. It's a skill that develops over time. At first, you might crave companionship, but over time, you begin to appreciate your own company. It becomes empowering. You realize that you don't need to be constantly surrounded by others to feel complete or fulfilled. It's a shift in mindset from loneliness being a negative state to seeing it as a natural part of life that doesn't have to control you. Loneliness, when understood and managed, can actually help you reconnect with yourself. It teaches you how to find peace and contentment in your own company. And for men living alone, this is one of the greatest lessons they learn. That being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being with the most important person in your life, yourself. Chapter 6. Embracing personal growth and mental health. Let's talk about something that's incredibly important for men who live alone. Their mental health and personal growth. When we talk about living alone, we often focus on the logistics. The fact that you have your own space, you make your own decisions, and you live life on your own terms. But what about the deeper, more personal transformation that happens when you spend time alone? This is where things get really interesting. Living alone offers the unique opportunity to grow in ways that might be more difficult in a relationship or a shared living situation. You see, when you're living solo, you're forced to face your own thoughts, emotions, and habits head-on. There's no one else to distract you or fill the void of discomfort. It's just you. And while that might sound intimidating at first, it's actually one of the most powerful ways to grow emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Men who live alone often report significant personal growth because they're given the time and space to reflect on their lives. They have the freedom to break bad habits, explore new interests, and develop a stronger sense of self. Instead of seeking validation from others, they start looking inward to find the answers. And this isn't just about career goals or hobbies. It's about emotional resilience, self-compassion, and understanding one's true self. A big part of this personal growth is learning how to manage mental health without relying on someone else. Men who live alone often become more attuned to their emotional states, developing the ability to cope with stress, anxiety, or sadness in healthy ways. This might mean setting up routines that prioritize mental health, whether that's through exercise, meditation, journaling, or seeking therapy. It's about realizing that personal well-being is a journey that doesn't need to be shared with anyone else to be valid. Moreover, many men who live alone also report a heightened sense of confidence. When you live alone, you learn how to take care of yourself in ways that go beyond basic needs. You cook for yourself, clean up after yourself, manage your finances, and create a life that is fully yours. This independence breeds confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. And when challenges arise, whether that's a job loss, a personal setback, or anything else, you're better equipped to deal with them because you've learned to rely on your own strength. Of course, mental health isn't always a straightforward journey, and men who live alone can face their own struggles with isolation or stress. But the beauty of living solo is that it provides an environment where men can learn to nurture their mental well-being without external distractions. It allows them to take full responsibility for their emotional health, which ultimately leads to stronger mental resilience and a deeper understanding of their own needs. Personal growth is often a quiet process. There are no applause or accolades along the way. But living alone gives men the chance to grow in ways that others might miss. They become the architects of their own happiness, health, and emotional strength. And that, my friends, is something truly powerful. In this chapter, I want you to remember that living alone isn't just about being alone. It's about creating the space to focus on your own growth, mental health, and emotional well-being. It's about learning to be your own best friend, your own greatest supporter, and your own source of strength. And trust me, this journey of self-improvement is one that pays off in ways you can't even imagine yet. Chapter 7. The Pressure to Find the One. Let's dive into a topic that many men who live alone are all too familiar with: the overwhelming societal pressure to find the one. It's a constant theme that seems to permeate throughout our lives, especially as we get older. If you're a man living alone, there's a good chance you've experienced someone, somewhere, whether it's family, friends, or even complete strangers, telling you that you need to find a girlfriend, settle down, and start a family. The truth is, this pressure can be exhausting. It's as if society has a checklist for happiness that includes the idea of finding a soulmate and living a picture-perfect life with someone by your side. And if you're not checking off that box, you might start feeling like you're somehow falling behind or missing out on the full experience of life. But let me ask you this: why is the idea of finding the one so heavily ingrained in our minds? Why is it considered the ultimate goal, the standard measure of success or happiness? Living alone often puts men in the path of this constant pressure. When you're single, it feels like everyone around you is rooting for you to complete yourself by finding a partner. Whether it's a well-meaning comment from a relative about when you're going to settle down, or a friend who constantly asks if you're seeing anyone, the unspoken message is clear: you're not enough unless you're in a romantic relationship. But here's where the real truth lies. This pressure is nothing more than a construct. It's based on outdated norms that dictate what happiness and fulfillment should look like. The reality is, not every man wants or needs to be in a relationship to feel complete. Some men genuinely prefer being single because it gives them the time and space to focus on their personal growth, career, and passions. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, many men who live alone realize that relationships can be complicated, and often they're better off waiting for the right partner rather than rushing into a relationship just to fit in with what society expects. When you're not constantly chasing the idea of the one, you can build a deeper understanding of who you are and what you really want out of a relationship, without the pressure to settle for anything less than what truly resonates with you. The reality is, there's no one-size-fits-all formula for happiness. Some people find joy in being single, and others find it in relationships. But the key here is to recognize that your worth is not tied to your relationship status. You don't need to find the one just because others say so. You're already complete as you are, and when the time is right, love will come naturally. Not because it's a societal requirement, but because it's a genuine, meaningful connection that you both deserve. So, let go of the societal pressures to find the one and trust in your own timing. Live your life for yourself first. Focus on what makes you happy, pursue your dreams, and build the life you want. The right relationship will come when it's meant to, and until then, know that you're not missing out. You're just creating space for something real. Chapter 8. Financial freedom and personal space. If there's one thing that men who live alone can appreciate, it's the incredible financial freedom and personal space they have. Let's face it, living alone comes with a unique set of benefits that often get overlooked in favor of the idea of finding a romantic partner. But the truth is, having your own place, your own space, and complete control over your finances is something that offers immense personal empowerment. Let's start with financial freedom. When you live alone, you are fully in control of your finances. There's no one else to consider when making decisions about spending, saving, or investing. Every financial choice you make directly affects you, and only you. This can be incredibly liberating. You're not having to juggle a partner's financial goals with your own, nor are you responsible for someone else's spending habits. You get to live within your means and prioritize your own financial well-being. This also means that men who live alone often have the opportunity to focus on their financial independence. They can make choices that align with their personal goals, whether that's paying off debt, saving for a big purchase, or investing in their future. And this freedom often leads to greater financial security and peace of mind. Instead of being weighed down by shared financial responsibilities, living alone allows men to take full ownership of their money and how they choose to use it. But it's not just the financial freedom that makes living alone so empowering. It's also the personal space. Having your own space means having control over your environment. You get to decide how your home looks, feels, and functions. There are no compromises when it comes to decor, cleanliness, or how you organize your life. Whether you're someone who values minimalism or prefers a cozy, cluttered space, living alone gives you the freedom to create an environment that feels right for you. This personal space is about more than just physical surroundings, though. It's about mental and emotional space. When you live alone, you don't have to worry about accommodating someone else's needs or preferences. You're free to spend your time however you see fit. You can pursue hobbies, take up new projects, or simply enjoy the peace and quiet without distractions. It's an environment where you can truly focus on your own growth, both personally and professionally. Living alone also provides the time and space to reflect and recharge. There's no one else's energy in the room but your own, and this solitude allows you to clear your mind and recalibrate when life feels overwhelming. You're able to step back and take stock of what's working in your life and what needs to change. This self-awareness is a powerful tool that many men who live alone learn to embrace. And while it's true that financial freedom and personal space come with the responsibility of self-sufficiency, many men find that the rewards far outweigh the challenges. The ability to live on your own terms, financially and emotionally, is an empowering feeling that provides confidence and security in a way that few other things can. In the end, living alone offers men the chance to live freely, with control over both their finances and their environment. It's a space where they can build their lives on their own terms, without the constraints of a shared existence. And this freedom isn't just about independence. It's about creating the life that truly aligns with your values and desires, without compromise. Chapter 9. Challenges and emotional struggles. Living alone is not always sunshine and roses. There are definitely challenges that come with the territory, and let's be real, emotional struggles are one of them. It's easy to think that living solo means you have everything figured out, but the truth is, even the most independent men face emotional ups and downs. One of the biggest challenges men who live alone face is the feeling of isolation. While many men cherish their space in solitude, there are times when that isolation can feel heavy. The moments when everyone else seems to be surrounded by friends or partners can hit hard. Social gatherings can bring that sense of longing for a companion. It's in these moments that the pressure of living alone can feel like a weight. The silence that you usually appreciate can sometimes feel deafening. However, what sets men who live alone apart is their ability to confront these emotions head-on. They don't shy away from the feelings of loneliness, but instead, they lean into them, using the experience as a chance to understand their emotions more deeply. And here's the truth. It's okay to feel lonely sometimes. It's a natural part of life, no matter your relationship status. What matters is how you deal with it. Men who live alone often find ways to fill the silence with meaningful activities, whether that's diving into hobbies, focusing on work, or engaging with friends who offer support. Instead of succumbing to feelings of isolation, they use it as an opportunity for personal growth. Another emotional struggle comes from the societal judgments that often accompany being single. Men who live alone can feel the weight of society's expectations, the unspoken assumption that they should always be in a relationship. They may feel like they're missing out on something, or that there's something inherently wrong with not having a girlfriend. These judgments can erode self-confidence, especially when the world seems to place so much value on having a partner. But here's where the mental shift happens. Understanding that these external judgments don't define who you are. Men who live alone eventually come to realize that their worth isn't tied to their relationship status. They find strength in accepting themselves as they are, knowing that their journey is unique. Instead of internalizing the judgments, they learn to block out the noise and focus on what truly matters: self-acceptance and peace of mind. Despite these struggles, men who live alone also develop emotional resilience. They are forced to navigate their emotions independently, learning how to handle moments of sadness, frustration, or even self-doubt. Over time, this strengthens their emotional muscles. They realize that being alone doesn't mean being weak. It means having the strength to stand on your own and deal with life's challenges head-on. So yes, living alone comes with emotional struggles, but it also presents an opportunity to learn how to manage emotions more effectively, to become emotionally self-sufficient, and to find strength in solitude. These struggles are not signs of failure, but stepping stones to deeper personal growth. Chapter 10: The Freedom to Create and Pursue. Passions. One of the most exciting and rewarding aspects of living alone is the freedom it provides to pursue passions, dreams, and creative ventures. When you're not worried about constantly balancing a relationship, you have the time and energy to focus on what truly excites you. And for many men, this newfound freedom leads to discovering or rediscovering passions that might have been buried under the weight of responsibilities or societal expectations. Living alone gives men the space to explore creative hobbies without judgment or interference. Whether it's picking up a musical instrument, starting a side business, or diving into an artistic pursuit like painting or writing, the freedom to create is one of the greatest advantages of solo living. There's no one around to tell you how to spend your time, no one to judge your choices. It's all about what brings you joy, what sparks your creativity, and what you feel passionate about. What's more, the ability to create without distractions allows men to dive deep into their passions. Without the constant pull of other obligations, they can focus on honing their skills and developing their interests. Whether they're mastering a craft, starting a project, or exploring a new field of interest, the solitude of living alone provides the mental space to immerse themselves fully. And when they achieve something, whether it's a finished product or a new skill, it's deeply rewarding because they've done it all on their own. This kind of freedom also extends to pursuing personal goals. Men who live alone are free to chase their dreams without the need to compromise or adjust for someone else's desires. If they want to travel, move to a new city, or start a new career, there's no one to answer to but themselves. This autonomy can be incredibly empowering. It allows men to take risks, push boundaries, and go after what they truly want out of life, whether or not it fits into the traditional mold of success. Living alone also provides the opportunity to become more self-disciplined. Without the structure a relationship might provide, men must develop their own routines, manage their time, and stay motivated on their own. This discipline can translate into all areas of life, from work to personal projects to self-improvement. And the beauty of it is that this self-discipline comes naturally when you're fully invested in something you're passionate about. For many men, This creative and personal freedom is the heart of living alone. It's the chance to focus on what matters most to them, to create without restrictions, and to follow their passions without hesitation. Living alone becomes a space where men can truly live authentically, without needing to conform to anyone else's expectations. They get to build a life that's uniquely their own, a life filled with purpose, creativity, and fulfillment. Conclusion: the strength in being alone. As we come to the end of this journey, exploring what it means to live alone without a girlfriend, I want to leave you with one powerful thought. There is strength in being alone. Society might tell you that you need a partner to be complete, but the reality is, you are already whole. You are already enough. Living alone isn't a sign of failure or loneliness. It's an opportunity for self-discovery, growth, and freedom. It's a space where you can learn to rely on yourself, build emotional resilience, and explore passions that truly light you up. It's a chance to grow into the person you were always meant to be, without the pressures or distractions of a relationship. For many men, this journey of living alone leads to a deeper understanding of what they truly want out of life. They realize that happiness isn't found in a romantic partner. It's found within themselves. When you learn to live fully on your own terms, to embrace your solitude and turn it into something empowering, you gain a sense of strength and confidence that can't be shaken by anyone or anything. So, to all the men who are living alone, know this: you are on a journey of growth, self-discovery, and empowerment. You're building a life that is uniquely yours, and you are capable of achieving incredible things. Don't let the world's expectations or stereotypes about being single hold you back. Instead, embrace the freedom, the independence, and the joy that comes with living alone. Remember, strength comes from within, and there's no better time to tap into that strength than when you're on your own. You don't need anyone else to define your worth or your happiness. You've got this. Live fully, live boldly, and know that your journey is yours alone to create.